After all, if you've got to keep your husband from going back to an old flame, well, you're not going to let anything like a double murder stand in the way, now, are you?
The National Broadcasting Company presents The Adventures of the Abbotts, starring Claudia Morgan and Mandel Kramer as Pat and Jean Abbott, those popular characters of detective fiction created by Francis Crane, whose current book is Death in Lilac Time. NBC invites you to join Pat and Jean each week at this time for another recorded adventure in romance and crime. Now here is Jean Abbott to set the stage for tonight's puzzle in Murder.
Pat and I had been on a case in Pittsburgh. When it was over, having been brilliantly solved by my Pat, who's a tremendous detective, we had an invitation from an old school chum of Pat's, Josh Fielding, president of International Steel. Josh invited us to drop by and tour his steel plant. Pat and I stood beside Josh as he led us past the huge, boiling cauldrons of hot, liquid steel.
You make quite a mean kettle of soup in those cauldrons, Josh.
Yes, it's mean, all right, Pat. Some of it's up to 3,000 degrees. Now, if you look at that catwalk crossing over your head toward the cauldrons...
Oh, what a terrific view. Look at that catwalk. It's so far up. Look, Pat. Pat, that man up there.
Good heavens, he's falling.
He'll fall into that hot steel.
I'll never forget the sight of that man as he fell past the girders, his hands clutching helplessly at the air, his face twisted in unspeakable fear. I would have passed out if Pat hadn't grabbed me and carried me outside. Sometime later, when I'd calmed down, we were in Josh Fielding's office.
Of course, we'll skip the rest of the tour, Mrs. Abbott. I'm sorry you've been so upset.
Oh, I'll be all right now, Josh. You seem to have done much better than I did. You've really taken it in stride.
Unfortunately, these accidents in my plant occur quite frequently. I become used to them. Well, as used to them as a man can be. It's all part of the human equation. If we can't write disaster off now and then, we'd all go mad, wouldn't we? I'm sorry, though, that it disturbed you, Mrs. Abbott. I was hoping you'd feel well enough to, take a quick look at our research lab.
Thank you, Josh, but I'd rather not.
Pat, you know who works in there? Laura Stewart.
Not the Laura Stewart. The belle of the old campus herself?
Exactly. She turned out to be a remarkable chemist. I put her in my lab last year.
Laura Stewart?
Mm-hmm.
Josh, you remember the night of college when Laura and I got accidentally locked in the gym?
I never thought that was an accident, Pat.
No, not if I know Pat it wasn't. Darling, you never told me about that.
Well,
he never told you about Laura Stewart. Why, he and Laura were locked in...
Did you ever see anybody else from the old gang,
It
Josh?
was the talk of the campus. She was a ravishing girl, and...
Go on.
Isn't it awfully hot in here?
Now, come on, Pat. Step into the research lab with me and say hello to Laura. She'll be so glad to see you.
I'd like to take a look at her myself.
Well, some other time, maybe.
Let's go, Mr. Fielding. Which way is it to the research lab? I've always been interested in research of various types.
I see. Well, it's right through that door down the hallway. Just follow me. Just a moment. Stand right here, please. That's the warning buzzer. It means that someone's coming out. We'll have to wait here a second. Let these men pass. Careful. Just stand back, please.
What are those men carrying?
Grams of radium.
What in the world? Well, what noise is that?
A Geiger counter.
Oh, well, I've never heard one. detects radioactivity, doesn't it?
Yes, we have to be very careful. All right, fine. This way to the lab, please. There she is, Pat. Laura Stewart.
Why, Pat Abbott. Oh, darling.
Hello, Laura.
Where have you been all these years? Oh, you've got to give me a great big kiss for Auld Lang Syne. Just you come here to
Now,
Laura.
Laura, I'd like you to meet my wife, Jean.
I still haven't met anyone who sends me the way that Pat... Your wife?
How do you do, Miss Stewart? I'm always glad to meet an old friend of Pat's.
Hello, Mrs. Abbott.
Why don't you show Pat and Jean around the lab, Laura?
Of course, Josh and I...
Laura, I don't believe I've had the pleasure of meeting Mr. and Mrs. Abbott.
Oh, yes, Pat and Mrs. Abbott. This is Mr. Jordan.
Hello.
How do you do?
Tim Jordan's head of my research lab, Pat.
Oh? That must be very exciting work, Mr. Jordan.
Oh, it is, Mr. Abbott. Especially here at Josh's plant, where he gives us free rein.
Josh, I'm going to be the first to wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you, Laura, dear. That's very sweet.
Oh, is it your birthday, Mr. Fielding?
Well, happy birthday, Josh.
Thanks. And if you two don't join the rest of us at my home for a party tonight, I'll never speak to you again.
We'd love to.
No, I'm not waiting for the party to give you my present either. I'm going to be the first to do that. Here.
Laura, what a beautiful fountain pen.
Why, it makes my present for Josh look sick.
Oh, don't be silly, Tim. It's nothing, really.
Laura, why don't you and Tim close up the lab and come over to my house right now with Pat and Jean? I'll mix my usual perfect cocktail.
Oh, no, I'm afraid I couldn't do that. I really couldn't. Well, I have too much work to do. You run along. I'll meet you there later.
Are you sure?
Yes, absolutely. You go along with Pat and Mrs. Abbott, and I'm sorry, I can't go now.
All right, Laura, you don't have to get so upset about it, dear. Tim, how about you? You can come with us now, can't you?
I'm right behind you, Josh.
No, Tim.
What's the matter, Laura? You feel all right?
I feel quite all right. It's just that I have something here in the lab that I want you to look at, Tim. You can go with them later, can't you? You don't have to go now, do you?
Well, it isn't a matter of life and death.
And don't go now, Tim. Stay here. I've got to talk to you.
Well, all right, Laura. Just don't excite yourself this way.
I'm not excited.
Come on, Pat and Jean. We'll see these two later. Don't be late, Tim. You drag Laura out of this lab whether she wants to work or not. It's my birthday, and I won't stand for any nonsense. We'll be waiting for you at my home.
Bye, Pat and Miss Abbott.
So long, Laura. See you later.
So nice to have met you, Miss Stewart.
Bye, all. We won't be late.
Here's the door, Pat. One of you men open the safety door.
Well, your old flame may be a very glamorous-looking woman, Pat, but I'm afraid she's on the hysterical side.
Don't you know why?
Why? Got a theory?
Mm-hmm. It's because she saw me again.
Oh, you conceited.
Well, I always have that effect on her, darling. No Geiger counter this time, huh, John?
No, Pat. After all, as president of this company, I'm not going to steal from myself. We just take ordinary common sense precaution.
But ordinary precautions don't seem to work, Mr. Fielding.
Why do you say that?
Well, I was thinking of that man who fell from the catwalk and was killed.
Pat.
Yes, Laura?
We drank to Josh's birthday, so this time I'm drinking to you and me and certain memories.
To us, Laura. And I know which memories you mean, too.
Pat, you seem to be having a wonderful time.
Oh, yes, darling. Laura and I were just talking about research.
Oh, were you?
Come on, Pat, and Mrs. Abbott. I want you to meet Dean Kennedy.
Hello, Laura.
Dean Kennedy, this is Pat and Jean Abbott.
Oh, how do you do?
Hello.
Dean Kennedy is head of the little college here in town. Have you heard of the Independence Institute of Technology?
It's a formidable name, Mr. Abbott, but a very modest school.
Oh, excuse me, there's the birthday boy. I want to speak to him again. Josh!
Yes, Laura?
Would you do a favor for me? Could I have the fountain pen? Would you give it back to me?
Give it back to you.
It's really not the sort of present that I wanted to give you. And you've half a dozen pens already.
But I like it, Laura. I don't expect you to spend a lot of money on a fancy present.
Please, Josh, give me the pen. I want to get something else for
Now,
you.
don't be silly. You gave it to me, and it's all over.
It was a darn good-looking pen.
Well, of course. Forget it, Laura.
Will you please give me that pen?
No. Now, skip it, won't you?
Josh, give me that pen.
Not on your life.
Josh, come back
Now,
here.
Laura, why are you so bothered about a silly old...
Oh, Josh, let go of me, Pat. Josh, just wait.
Pat, look at her chasing after Josh up those stairs as though she were playing cops and robbers. Oh, she's determined to get that pen back or know the reason why. Pat! He's falling downstairs! Pat!
Let me see him.
Well, call a doctor, someone.
What happened?
No. It was an accident. Is he all right? Is he all right?
He's dead.
I didn't know what I was doing. I was angry. I pushed him. I didn't realize that he was so close to the stairs. I didn't know. I didn't
All right, Laura,
know.
easy now. Easy. Look, I think Laura ought to rest for a while. She'll be all right if she's left alone.
Yes, you're right. We'll wait in the other room, Mr. Abbott. Come on, Tim.
All right, Dean.
I'll help you to that couch.
Had a girl, Jean. Now, if the rest of you will wait in the other room...
Come on, Martha.
I say she killed him deliberately.
Please, Martha. Let's go, Tim.
Certainly, Dean.
All right, let's just get her on that couch, Jean.
Laura, stand up. That's right. Now lean on me. That's it, dear.
You've got to believe me. I didn't kill him. Mrs. Kennedy hates me, and that's why she said that.
Now, Laura, please, lie back. That's better.
I'll go into the dining room. I saw a bottle of vodka in there. I'll be right back, Jean. The phone is out in the hall, too. It's convenient.
For what?
I'm going to phone the police.
Oh, now, Laura, just try to control yourself. You won't help things acting this
I
way.
wouldn't hurt Josh.
No.
I just pushed him. I didn't know.
All right, Laura, all right. Now, suppose you just... Lights. Well, who turned them out? Pat! Pat, come here! Pat!
Jean, where the devil is that light switch? Jean.
Oh, Pat. Oh, Pat, someone turned out the lights.
Where did you get that letter opener?
Well, someone came into the room in the dark. I didn't know what was happening. I tried to grab them, and I reached out, and they shoved this letter opener in my hand.
Better put it down, Jean.
Yes,
It wouldn't help much if anyone saw you with that letter opener. Take a look at Laura.
Laura, what? Pat, she's bleeding. Laura, what happened?
Pen. The pen.
Oh, no. Pat, is she...
Yes, Jean. She's been stabbed in the heart.
Oh, Pat, I touched that knife. My fingerprints are on that knife.
Steady, darling. I'd better do a little bit of clue hunting before we let anybody in here. Let's see here.
Oh,
Women have more junk in their pockets.
Pat, isn't that the top of the pen that Laura gave to Josh Fielding?
Yeah. Now, there are other fascinating little items in here.
Oh, what, for instance?
Some letters. From Dean Kennedy to Laura.
Oh, Dean Kennedy, that little man with the glasses. He's the most harmless, innocent. Good letters?
Mm-hmm. And you're not going to read them. I'm censoring them right now.
Let me see them now.
No, go away. These are not for little girls. Dean Kennedy, Mr. Jordan.
Is Laura dead?
Yes, I'm afraid so.
Oh, that's horrible. Horrible.
The police are on their way. They'll take over. By the way, the three of you were in the other room before this happened. Now tell me, did any one of you leave that room at all?
Well, I went out to get another drink in the next room.
I see. Dean Kennedy, I just wanted to ask you a question.
Yes, Mr. Abbott.
I found these letters in Laura's pocketbook. Were you going to buy them?
Me? Buy them?
You heard me.
All right, it is true. I did write those letters. I've tried to cover up because... Well, I'm married. I've worked for 10 years to get my job as dean at Independence, and any gossip, whatever it was, could have cost me that job. But I don't care now. I can't cover up anymore. We're all involved in a terrible murder, and Now I certainly don't give a hoot what becomes of me.
Well, Dean Kennedy, if I were you, I'd try not to be quite so talkative.
You think we might implicate ourselves? Well, we're in it up to our necks now anyway.
But I think we can save you a lot of embarrassment. Maybe even save you a job.
Oh, how?
Go home. Right now. Everybody. You and Mr. Jordan, go home.
But, Pat, the police
That's
are...
just the point.
But the police will be here any second now.
And there's a chance, an outside chance, that we can wash this up without seeing all of your pictures smeared across page 1 of the local tabloid.
But if we leave, the police will think...
I've handled policemen, Mr. Jordan, for a number of years. Now, don't you worry about what the police will think. Just go home. While there's still time.
Well, you're a detective, Mr. Abbott. I'll take your word for it. I'll do anything you say.
So will I. I'll be at my home if you want me. You can depend on that.
And what Dean says goes for me, too. I'm available any time, Mr. Abbott.
Pat, are you going crazy?
Why, darling?
Well, you've got a double murder on your hands and 3 suspects. Dean Kennedy, maybe his wife, and Tim Jordan, the research man. Do you question them? Do you hold them for the police? It looks as if we were in a picnic for the Campfire Girls, and everybody can go home.
I want them all at home, Jean. Each in his or her own home. And, speaking of the subject, you're going home, too.
Lloyd's will give you 100 to 1. You don't get me to go home.
Jean, go home.
Not on your life. With 2 murders to solve?
Darling, do you remember the time in Mexico City when I got mad and spanked the daylights out of you?
Call before you come home. I'll be waiting up for you. Very much upset, I went home. Pat swings quite a punch when he spanks. And the last time we had that kind of a session, I couldn't sit down for a week, so I went home. Meanwhile, as I learned later, Pat was traipsing around, of all places, in a car with a friendly policeman.
Now, I hope you know what the confounded bejeepers you're doing, Abbott.
I think so, Sergeant.
What'd you say this gadget was?
That's a Geiger counter, Sergeant. Really a simple gadget.
Yeah, it's a fine way to solve a murder, riding around all night with a silly box sticking out the window.
Well, this silly box, Sergeant, is one of the most important gadgets in the world. You see, it detects radiation. Now, if there's any radioactivity near this Geiger counter, it starts to click.
So what?
Well, it's an exercise in logic. Look, Sergeant, what's happened on this case? Josh Fielding, the man who got the fountain pen, was killed. Laura Stewart almost went mad trying to get the pen back. She finally got it. At least she got the top half of it. Then she was killed. Must be quite an extraordinary pen, huh, Sergeant?
Yeah, go on.
People wouldn't knock each other off for a pen, even if it did right underwater. Now, why did Laura refuse to leave the research lab with me and Josh after she gave him the pen? And why did she refuse to allow Tim Jordan, the head of the lab, to go out?
I don't see the connection.
There was a Geiger counter outside the lab, Sergeant. It clicked when we arrived. Obviously, because an employee came out of the lab with some radium.
Radium?
Mm-hmm. I even complimented the president of the outfit, Mr. Fielding, on his care in seeing that no employee got out of that lab without passing a Geiger counter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, radium is worth a fortune. Thousands of dollars a gram. Just the sort of thing you would conceal in a fountain pen if you were stealing it.
Oh, yeah, I get it now. Sure. This tomato Laura Stewart decides to get about $100,000 worth of radium out of the lab, so she sticks it in a fountain pen. Gives it to the president, knowing that they wouldn't turn that gadget on when the boss walked through the door.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see that, all right. Then she goes to the party and figures she'll get it back. She'll give him a fancier-looking birthday present, and she'll keep the radium. They have a battle. She shoves him down the stairs.
And I find the top of the pen in her pocket.
Yeah, meaning somebody's got the bottom half with a fortune in radium inside. Dean Kennedy, Mrs. Kennedy, or that Tim Jordan.
And that, Sergeant, is why we are taking this delightfully cool evening ride in the car with a Geiger counter. It can spot radium in a mile area. So we're going to pass the home of each suspect, and when the counter starts to click...
That's where the radium is. I get it. That's the killer. Well, now that I've figured out the whole case, what are we waiting for?
Yes, Sergeant. Now that you figured it all out, what are we waiting for?
Well, that's Tim Jordan's house right ahead of us, Abbott. He's the head of the research lab.
All right, Sergeant. I'll turn on the Geiger counter. Okay, it's on. Now stop the car.
All right.
If the counter starts to click, he's our man.
Okay, listen closely, Abbott. Anything yet?
Nope. Drive on.
All right. There's Dean Kennedy's house. Listen closely now, Abbott.
Nothing doing.
No, I don't hear anything. All right, it's the Dean's wife, then.
Maybe, Sergeant. Maybe.
Or who else could it be? Here's her house. Dean's wife lives over there. You got that Geiger counter on?
Yes, it's quiet.
It sure is.
Wrong again.
I don't understand it. It's got to be one of the three.
Sergeant, drive me home. Must be something wrong with the way I figured this out. But what the devil is it? Where did I go wrong?
Okay, Abbott. Home sweet home. Here you are. Hey, your wife's got the light on. I bet she's sore as a pup. You leaving her home while you work out the case.
Only I haven't worked it out, Sergeant. There's something wrong.
Hey, wait a minute. Holy Aunt Hannah, you hear what I hear?
Yes. The Geiger counter's clicking, but Sergeant...
Clicking, all right. That means the killer's in your house, Abbott. Don't tell me your wife took that radium.
Don't be ridiculous. Let's go in.
Hey, how do you like that gadget? Clicking like crazy. There's radium in that house of yours, Abbott.
There's a killer in there, too, with Jean.
Oh, Pat.
You got here just in time, Abbott. We were about to leave.
Well, if it ain't Mr. Jordan.
Sergeant, Pat. Oh, thank heavens you're here. It's Tim Jordan. He's the one who stabbed Laura.
I think your husband realized that, Mrs. Abbott.
Sergeant, you can turn off that Geiger counter. Now, look, Jordan.
Careful, Abbott. You're forgetting something.
You've got the other half of that pen, Jordan, with the radium in it.
That's just it. I have the radium with me in a needle that was inside the pen.
Oh,
so...
my arm. You let go of my
Mr. Abbott,
arm,
if you or that policeman
Pat.
take one step toward me, I'll put this needle into your wife's arm. I suppose I don't have to be more specific about what would happen if radium is directly injected into Mrs. Abbott's arm. A very agonizing death, Mr. Abbott. Quite prolonged and unspeakably painful. And there'd be nothing medical science could do.
Why, you know...
I'm leaving now, Mr. Abbott. And I'm taking your wife with me, just to be sure my departure isn't interfered with. I'm taking her with me in my car. If there's any attempt to follow me, I'll be forced to use the radium needle.
You've got it all figured out very nicely, Mr. Jordan. You've had a good scheme ever since that man fell into the cauldron of hot steel. Was that an accident? Or was he wise to the fact that you were trying to steal radium from that lab of yours?
He overlooked a wrong conversation, let us say.
Yes, but it was Laura Stewart who finally gave you the real opportunity. She had access to the radium. You must have known radium was missing, so you went through the same logic as I did. When she made the fuss about the pen, you realized Laura had the radium in it, so you stabbed her and stole it. But you were afraid Jean had noticed you in the dark, so you came here to make sure.
I'm afraid I haven't any more time, Mr. Abbott. That is, we haven't. Your wife and I. My car's outside. Get moving, Mrs. Abbott.
Let go of my arm.
Let them go, Sergeant.
Oh.
Don't try anything.
Oh, but Abbott...
Let them go, I say.
Coming, Mrs. Abbott.
Tim Jordan gripped my arm with the radium needle about an inch from my wrist. The slightest movement, and he would have jabbed it deep into my veins. Pat, who'd usually fight like 10 Marines, stood grimly watching us go out the door. My Pat wouldn't take a chance, however good it was, on anything as dangerous as radium. When we got outside, Jordan took out the gun he'd been carrying and made me get into his car.
I'll drive down this road, Mrs. Abbott. Then we'll turn left and hit the highway. I must warn you, if we're followed by a police car, I shall kill you instantly. Don't move, Mrs. Abbott. I can see everything you see.
Mr. Jordan, all I want to do is powder my nose. That's a woman's privilege.
Well, all right.
I don't see why you should worry about a girl's powdering her nose. I'll just...
My eyes! My eyes!
I'm so sorry, Mr. Jordan. I'll just take that gun of yours and... Look out! We're going off the road!
Jean? Jean, darling? Wake up, darling. Jean. You're in the hospital, darling.
Oh. Jordan. Tim Jordan. I blew the powder in his eyes.
Mm-hmm. It was very smart, sweetheart, but you should have waited until you were at the stoplight. You know, you knocked over a lamppost, an ice cream truck, and a fire hydrant.
Oh.
Of course, no one minds about the first two, but there's a little French poodle who's awfully sore at you for ruining his favorite hydrant.
Oh, Pat. Oh, what happened to Tim?
He's in the clinic. And your picture's in the paper with a very fancy headline.
Oh?
Daring girl captures radium killer. It's a nice picture, too.
Do I look pretty?
Fair.
Prettier than your old flame, Laura Stewart?
Maybe.
Pat, tell me the answer to the biggest mystery in this case.
The biggest mystery? What's that?
Oh, what happened when you and Laura were locked in the college gym all night?
Oh, darling, that was before you and I were married.
Well, I still want to know.
Did you see the gorgeous flowers I brought you?
Oh, stop stalling, darling. I hate people who stall about a question and change the subject.
Jean, what happened with you and that airline pilot when you got caught in the rain in that Paris hotel?
Say, they are beautiful flowers, aren't they? After all, receiving presents when you go on a romantic cruise is wonderful. But what if someone gives you and your husband a corpse?
The National Broadcasting Company presents The Adventures of the Abbotts, starring Claudia Morgan and Mandel Kramer as Pat and Jean Abbott, the nationally popular characters of detective fiction created by Francis Crane. NBC invites you to join Pat and Jean each week at this time for an exciting recorded adventure in romance and crime. Here is Jean Abbott to set the stage for tonight's Puzzle in Murder.
Pat and I decided to get away from it all, as if you ever do when your husband's a private detective. Anyway, the boat had sailed, and Pat and I brushed off the confetti and headed for our cabin.
This way to the Abbott's cabin, ma'am.
Oh, Pat. But it's sensational.
Mm-hmm.
Must be very wealthy people, these Abbotts.
Now I'll just close this door. Now, me proud beauty, now that I have you alone in me cabin, maybe I ought to grow a mustache so I could twirl it now and then, huh, Jean?
No. Don't grow a mustache, Mr. Abbott. I kind of like you the way you are. Oh, Pat, everyone's been so sweet I could cry. Look at all those presents. 4 Bon Voyage baskets, 6 bottles of champagne, and those roses. The cabin smells like Shangri-La. Where are you going, Dick?
Take a shower and dress for dinner.
Oh, wear the white dinner jacket tonight, Pat, so I can be very proud of my handsome husband.
Okay, darling, but I hate the darn thing. I always feel like a head waiter. We have a present that we didn't know about, Jean.
Really? Oh, that's marvelous. Don't tell me. Now, let me guess. Bath salts?
No.
Orchids?
Mm-mm.
Well, what is it, Pat?
A dead body.
Oh, isn't that nice? What did you say?
There's a guy in there taking a shower, but he's not singing.
Now, Pat Abbott, if you're clowning around... Now, let me...
You stay out of there, darling. It's not a very pretty sight for starting a vacation. Somebody split his head open with a fire hatchet.
Our second honeymoon got off to a delightful start with champagne, roses, and a cadaver. We found a horrible, mangled body in our cabin. Pat called the captain. I thought all ship's captains looked and talked like Charles Lawton, but this chap was very simple. Not at all dramatic, but abrupt. Almost too abrupt. After quite a few questions...
Sorry this happened, Mr. Abbott. I know you're a detective, but I'll assume complete charge of this case.
Well, that's all right with me. I'm on a vacation.
I'll arrange for you to use another cabin.
Do you know who the dead man is, Captain?
Yes.
You mind telling me?
He was a member of the French secret police.
Oh? Any idea who killed him?
I told you I was taking charge of this case.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was just professional curiosity.
Pat, let's get out of here.
Good idea, Mrs. Abbott. You'll feel better, and I can get to work.
You're sure I can't help you, Captain?
Absolutely. What's happened is quite obvious. The dead man's fully clothed. He was killed near this door. The body was pushed into the tub to hide it. Of course, there aren't any clues at all about the killer yet.
Oh, aren't there? Captain, if you'd have looked at the ashtrays in this cabin, you'd have noticed 3 brands of cigarettes had been smoked.
What?
Now, you use a pipe. My wife and I might smoke 2 brands, but how about the third one? It might be interesting to know whose cigarette that was, don't you think?
Well, I'd have noticed that eventually. I just...
Well, I'm sorry to have wasted so much time for you, Captain. This is your case, isn't it?
Not to mention a word about the murder to anyone and to behave as though this was a very jolly trip, which indeed it turned out to be. The trip was to Martinique in the French West Indies. And there were some passengers who'd crossed from Cherbourg to New York and then gone south. While Pat was playing shuffleboard, I strolled into the cocktail lounge. I met a very dapper little gentleman. He was almost a Hollywood idea of a comic Frenchman. Small, delicate, with a mustache. Very graceful airs about him. He wore a loud Nile green suit and a yellow ascot tie. Very chic. We were at the bar.
Madame Abbott, to me you are absolute perfection, except for one thing.
Oh, what's that, Pierre?
You are married, to my eternal regret. Ah, comme c'est dommage. I shall never know why it is that all of the exquisite women I meet are married. It is very depressing.
Well, don't let it get you down. You're like my husband.
Well, he may be the most charming gentleman in the world, but for taking you to himself, I detest him.
Pierre, tell me, what business have you run away from for this cruise?
I have run away from the East Indies, madame, the export business. I have come to forget all of my troubles. Of course, confidentially, it is not easy to forget the troubles of the world, even on this boat.
What about this boat?
You see the gentleman at the other end of the lounge?
Uh-huh.
He is Jacques Fontaine. You have heard about Monsieur Fontaine?
No, I met him for a second.
He is what the writer Pertinax, André Géraud, would call a gravedigger of France. He was a collaborationist. At first, he worked with the coiffeur. Now he is involved in the mess in Indonesia, on the wrong side again.
Really?
Yes.
Well, my husband and I thought he was very pleasant.
Every night I pray that Monsieur Fontaine will not live to see the morning. But I am a timid gentleman. If I only had the courage to...
The courage to what?
I am just reading, madame.
Enjoying yourself, Jean?
Oh, hello, Pat. Pierre Duchamp, my husband, Mr. Abbott.
Enchanté, monsieur. I hope you will pardon me for monopolizing your wife's time. She is so delightful. I stole a few minutes of conversation with her.
Oh, it's all right.
Now, if you would excuse me, I shall leave you two very happy people alone. A young couple in love, eh? Ah, c'est magnifique.
Oh, well, don't run off, Pierre.
Yes, madame, I go. But we shall see more of each other, no? My cabin is number 5 on A deck. We are neighbors, right? Au revoir now. Bientôt.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, really, Pat? You didn't have to glare at the poor little fellow.
Jean, why is it that if I leave you alone for more than 60 seconds, the wolf pack comes out howling?
Don't be stuffy.
He is up to no good. With all that dancing around and bowing and scraping, he's just a wolf. And you encourage him, pal. Oh, don't run off, Pierre.
Will you stop acting like a jealous little boy? Now, Oscar Wilde once said that
Suppose
jealousy
we skip the quotations,
Pat, I found out something, and it might be helpful.
What is it?
Pierre loathes that chubby man we met, Jacques Fontaine, the one at the other end of the bar.
Because he says Fontaine's on the wrong side in Asia?
Now, how did you know?
Scuttlebutt.
Well,
A lot
Pierre
of hep
says...
Washington columnists say that Fontaine is innocent. They say all this talk about his being a traitor is just a lot of French pastry. We'll get a chance to judge for ourselves, though, darling.
Why?
In the mirror, he's coming over. Now, if you start gushing over him the way you did over Pierre...
Pat, Voltaire once said that the monster of jealousy...
Don't quote at me. I can't stand people who do that. Hello, Mr. Fontaine.
Monsieur Abbott, Madame Abbott, may I join you? We didn't have much of an opportunity to chat when we first met.
Well, sit down, Mr. Fontaine. We'd be delighted. Have you just come from France?
Mary, yes.
Did you, have any trouble getting out of the country?
Oh, no. Why should I?
Just asking. Europe's not exactly a playground these days.
Oh, I have been made the victim of cheap political gossip, Mr. Abbott.
Oh?
And you have been listening to it. And you have believed it.
Oh, I didn't say that.
I am on the side of democracy in French Indonesia.
Of course, your story has been corroborated, Mr. Fontaine.
No, that is impossible. The only witnesses I have
Yes?
were killed.
After a few minutes, the conversation changed, and Pat lost interest. At least he seemed to. Actually, I knew he was anxious to prowl around the ship. He left me with Fontaine and went back to our cabin.
Oh,
Aren't you in the wrong cabin, ma'am?
You are Monsieur Abbott?
Yes. You know, I'm beginning to wonder what makes me so popular. We keep having visitors in here.
Please forgive me. I'm Marie Fontaine.
Fontaine?
Yes, I saw you in the lounge before. You were speaking to my father.
Well?
It is very rude, but I wanted to speak to you. I was waiting in the hallway, hoping you would come, but then I saw a man's shadow. Someone was watching me, following me. He seemed to be just around the turn toward the exit. I was frightened. I ran into your cabin to be safe. I waited for you here.
Miss Fontaine, what's this all about? Why should anyone follow you? And why do you want to speak to me?
It is about my father. You know, they say he is a traitor to France, but he is innocent, Mr. Abbott. He is innocent. And you are a famous detective. You can help us. Secret agents, they follow him. He will be killed. He will be killed.
Now, Marie, just take it easy now. I'll do whatever I can.
Oh, you will? Oh, but I do not have any money. I have nothing to offer you.
Well, that's all right. You just forget that. Just relax.
Oh, Mr. Abbott, I knew you would help me. You are a darling, a darling.
Now, Marie, please.
Oh, you're
now,
an
look,
angel.
Marie, please.
Oh, look out,
monsieur.
fellows. Here come the cops.
Oh, Jean, come in, Jean. This is...
Oh, this must be your wife. Oh, c'est drôle.
Yes. Say droll.
Shall I turn on the air conditioning, Pat? You look overheated.
Well, no, darling.
I was thanking your husband, Mrs. Abbott. I am Marie Fontaine. He's going to cooperate with me.
Going to. My dear Miss Fontaine, he is cooperating.
Oh, I'm sorry if you misunderstand. I shall leave.
I'd better see you to your cabin, Miss Fontaine. She's not safe going around on the ship alone, Jean.
Now, where have I heard that one before?
Jean, on the subject of jealousy, George Bernard Shaw said...
There to be.
3. Didn't Pierre say that he had number 5 on this deck?
Ah, yes, his cabin is next to mine. The little man in the green suit. I do not trust him. He makes me very nervous.
Is there a connecting door between your 2 cabins?
Yes, there is, but I keep it locked. Pierre behaved like a harmless pigeon, but I think that he is a wicked vulture.
You and me both.
I shall be quite safe if I stay in my cabin. Thank you for bringing me here, Mr. Abbott. I'm sorry if I upset your wife.
Good night, Marie.
Confidentially.
Yes?
I'm not really sorry. I like kissing you. You are the kind of man for whom a woman would be glad to take risks. You are...
Good night, Marie. Say, Drew.
Coming to bed?
No, not yet, darling. I want to visit Mr. Fontaine.
Darling, he didn't kill that secret agent.
Didn't he?
I think Pierre did. The man in the green suit is a phony, if you ask me. You agree, Pat?
Well, I'll tell you more about it when I come back.
Got a clue?
Mm-hmm. I want to talk to the steward on A deck.
Oh, I'll come with you.
No, you'll stay here.
I'll come with you.
You'll stay here.
I'll scream. I'll pull the fire alarm. I'll break the door down.
Oh, I love women. Here we are. This is Fontaine's cabin. I'll knock.
Monsieur Abbott.
Pat, he's been stabbed. He's falling.
I'll get him. Hold him up.
Mr.
Mr. Fontaine, try to speak to us. Tell me what happened. Who was it? Who was it?
Oh.
He's checked out. I'll call the captain. Just put the body on the sofa. Hello, this is Pat Abbott. May I speak to the captain, please? It's urgent. Captain, this is Pat Abbott. Come on down to number 8 on B deck. Somebody's killed Fontaine.
They seem to have done quite a job on Fontaine, didn't they?
Captain, when that secret agent died, did you get any ideas about the case?
We went over every detail. I found nothing.
You sure you didn't overlook something?
I resent the implication, Mr. Abbott.
Look, isn't it a bit late for all this studied formality?
Mr. Abbott, you keep your professional nose out of this, or you'll be awfully sorry you didn't.
Look, Pat. Look what I found. This piece of yellow cloth.
Let me see that.
It's from Pierre's tie, isn't it?
Could be.
Oh, now, 24 men on this ship are wearing yellow ties. I've seen them.
Yes, but Pierre kept talking about having the courage to...
Go on, Mrs. Abbott. Go on.
Well,
Oh, confound it. Now what?
We raced to the top deck. It was pitch black up there. The captain shouted commands. Long fingers of light swept the water.
Anybody see him? Anybody see him? Get that boat down! Faster! Faster! Hop to it!
Pat,
Yes.
I'll bet Pierre jumped off. He said he just needed courage, that's all. He stabbed Fontaine and then he went over. He committed suicide. Oh, they'll never find him in that black water.
You've solved this pretty quickly, haven't you, chum?
Bring that light more to the left. The left! Swing it over! That's it! Binoculars! Get my binoculars! Come on! Come on!
The search was fruitless. After hours of hunting desperately and sailing around in circles, the captain gave up. Finally, we sailed ahead. Pat and I went to see Marie.
It is no use. My father is dead. He's dead. Oh, if I could have put my hands on that Pierre, that murderer.
He's paid for it, Marie. He's done away with himself.
Pierre died too easily, too quickly. Should have died like the dirty beast that he was.
All this hysteria won't do you any good, Marie.
Pat, I wonder what to do about that note.
What note, madame?
Well, yesterday when we were alone, your father gave me a note, Marie. He asked me to give it to the French embassy. Your father said it was terribly important.
Oh, what was in it?
I don't know. It was sealed. Your father asked me not to open it. He said I should see that it goes directly to the French government and to no one else.
I would be glad to bring it to them. I will be proud.
Now, Marie, dear, I do trust you, but...
I think Jean had better do what your father said, Marie. We'll take it to the French embassy.
Yes, I am sorry for asking. Forgive me. Everything must be done just as my father said.
Oh, feeling better, Marie?
Oh, yes, Captain. Thank you.
Making any progress, Captain? Get at the truth yet?
No, not yet.
Look, maybe
Mind your own business, Abbott. Now, you're supposed to be on a vacation, remember? I'll work this out in my own good time and in my own way.
Later, Pat went for another one of his strolls around the deck. As I watched him disappear with that long, casual western gait of his, I went back into our cabin alone. One second.
Good evening, Madame Abbott.
Pierre, it's you, but...
I am supposed to be at the bottom of the ocean, eh? Yes, sorry to disappoint you. Shut the door or I will use this gun.
But you didn't commit suicide. But you did kill Fontaine, didn't you?
Oh, yes. Yes, I did.
And that agent of the Sûreté?
Yes. He knew too much about me. You have a note, Madame Abbott, from Monsieur Fontaine. I will take it, please.
I am not going to give it to you.
But now, my dear, you must have learned by this time that human life has very little value to me. I have done away with 2 people. I could so easily make it a 3rd. Give me that note, Madame Abbott.
Get out of here, Pierre.
I want that note. I shall wait exactly 10 seconds for you to hand it over. Then I shall kill you.
You don't frighten me at all, Pierre.
2 seconds have gone by. I shall wait 10, as I said. Then I shall get you out of the way.
The shots would be heard and you'd be caught. You haven't much of a chance anyway. You'll be seen no matter what you do. You're finished, Pierre.
Odd that you should be willing to die for that little piece of paper. Surely it is not that important. When my watch comes to the 10th second, I shall fire. 8 seconds. 9 seconds.
Drop that gun, Pierre.
Abbott!
Duck, Jean!
Pat, you missed him. You hit the mirror.
You hurt, darling?
No, but there he goes, Pat, down the hallway. But go ahead, you... Pat, what are you standing there for?
Just want to kill time, darling. I missed him purposely.
You what?
Now, I want to give him a chance to get back to his cabin. I don't want to grab him right now.
Well, of all the... But I thought...
That it was all over? That all I had to do was catch Pierre? No, darling. You've been oversimplifying this deal ever since the cards were out. He's had enough time now. Come on.
Pat, be careful.
Don't follow me.
I certainly will.
Shh. Wait now. Easy now. Round this turn.
There he is. Way down the hall. Mm-hmm. You see him? He's looking around for you. Now he's going into his cabin. There he goes.
Good. Come on. First, I'll just have a look in here.
Oh, but that's Marie's cabin.
Of course it is. Fine, it's empty. I'll make sure that connecting door is locked. Yes, it is. All right, now, come out here in the hallway. That's it. Now we're going to play some games. You got a cigarette?
A cigarette? Now?
Sure.
Oh, Pat Abbott.
Come on. Atta girl, now give me a light.
Oh, what in the world?
I'm going to blow some smoke through the keyhole in Pierre's cabin. When I do, you scream fire.
Oh, now, Pat, I can't.
Come on, start screaming.
Pat, fire! Fire! Fire!
Where is it? What is the matter?
Marie!
Stand right there, Marie.
What?
I missed you before on purpose, but this time I'm playing for keeps.
Where's...
Pierre? There isn't any Pierre. Is there, Marie? There never was any Pierre. Was there, Marie?
You rotten.
Come on, talk up.
Yes, you're right.
You created Pierre, Marie. Yes, you played the part of two people. You were Pierre with the help of a wig, a mustache, a green suit, and a slight change in your voice.
No, you
I said
cannot.
stand still. Look in that cabin, Jean.
No. It will not be necessary. The disguise is in there.
Who was Fontaine, Marie? I said, who was...
He was my husband. He disowned me. He despised me. He would not have anything to do with me. He was very wealthy. He was not a collaborator. He gave money to the French resistance, to a certain Pierre Duchamp.
You killed the real Pierre then, didn't you?
Yes, in Paris, to get the fortune my husband had given him. Then I became Pierre myself.
You followed your husband to the boat. You took a cabin. He must have pleaded with you to leave him alone, but you wouldn't. A French secret agent caught up with you. So you grabbed a small fire hatchet and killed him. You built up the story about your husband's being a traitor. You built Pierre as a patriot. You stabbed your husband, then you wanted us to think that Pierre had knocked him off and jumped the boat. What'd you throw into the water? A packing box?
Please, I cannot talk anymore. I'm tired. Take me to the captain. I will not give you any more trouble.
The money you got by killing the real Pierre wasn't enough, was it? You wanted to inherit everything your husband had, too.
May we go now, please? Whatever you do not know must be in that note that my husband left.
All right, start walking. That ladder goes to the top deck, to the captain's headquarters.
Yes. Yes, I will. This has all happened so fast.
Pat, take her arm. I think she's ill.
May I please have your arm?
Oh! Biting, eh?
You'll never take me.
Oh, and scratching,
there
too.
You are. You're not going to...
All right, then I'll just carry you to the brig.
No,
you go.
Stop it. No.
Oh, see what I mean, Jean? I love women.
After Pat had turned that tigress over to the captain, we had dinner. We danced. We went up on deck to begin our romantic cruise again. Pat, how'd you know Marie was also Pierre?
Well, that was easy, darling. First of all, I never saw them together at the same time. Now, that was just a vague notion, so I asked the steward on A deck to do a favor for me.
Oh?
He showed me the cigarettes that he'd emptied out of the ashtrays in Pierre's cabin. Every one of them had lipstick on the tip.
And if you weren't sure then, you must have been later. I noticed Marie was the only person we told about the note. But a few minutes later, Pierre came in and asked for it. Oh, I'll bet the captain's hopping mad. He was hoping to solve the case without you. The arrogant so-and-so.
He isn't half as mad as I am. It's a fine second honeymoon, this is.
Pat.
Hmm?
I was just thinking.
Yes, dear?
Well, if the boat sank...
If the boat sank.
And we were marooned on a desert island for the rest of our lives, what would you do?
I don't know. Spend most of the time...
Doing what?
This? I told you, darling. I love women.
Moral of the story. I made one mistake that you can benefit by if you're planning a cruise. Please don't go on a streamlined luxury ship. Go on a very small, dangerous boat that's liable to be shipwrecked near some lovely private island.
National Broadcasting Company has presented The Adventures of the Abbotts, starring Claudia Morgan and Mandel Kramer as those nationally popular personalities of detective fiction, Pat and Jean Abbott, created by Francis Crane.
After all, suppose you were arrested on suspicion of murder and your husband was out chasing a beautiful redhead with $100,000. You think you've got troubles, hmm?
The National Broadcasting Company presents The Adventures of the Abbotts, starring Claudia Morgan and Mandel Kramer as Pat and Jean Abbott, those popular characters of detective fiction created by Francis Crane. NBC invites you to join Pat and Jean for another exciting recorded adventure in romance and crime. Now here is Jean Abbott to set the stage for tonight's puzzle in murder.
Pat and I were having our breakfast coffee. We do kind of a switch on the husband and wife routine at breakfast. Pat's hungry. He gobbles up pancakes and sausages and concentrates on his eating. Me, well, I bury my nose in the morning paper. Pat's business as a private detective keeps him so busy he doesn't have too much time for the news. So, well, I'm the poor man's John Cameron Swayze. I tell Pat what's new.
Well, go ahead, pal. Let's hear it.
Your insurance all paid up, Pat?
Why?
Your days are numbered. They're knocking off private detectives in this town like pins in a bowling alley.
Oh, who'd they get this time?
Well, the paper says your friend Charlie Brooks was shot last night in his office.
Well, that isn't surprising. Anyway, Mr. Brooks was no friend of mine, darling. I warned him. He was getting into some very crooked deals.
He was looking for a woman named Paula Sterling, it says.
Probably found her. Only somebody didn't like it, so they shot him.
Who's Paula Sterling?
I passed.
I thought maybe she was somebody in the gossip columns of those silly magazines.
And you should know, dear, you read them.
Out of morbid curiosity, that's all. Anyway, you'd better let this be a lesson to you. Take me along in all your murder cases, and I'll keep you out of trouble.
Yes, you're very helpful.
Your wife isn't a good detective, hmm?
Terrible.
She good for anything at all?
I doubt it.
How about this?
Yes. Now that you mention it, she does have talent along certain lines.
While Pat and I were at breakfast, a man we'd never heard of, a Mr. Sharbert, was talking to a hood who worked for him, a hood named Julian. They were in Sharbert's very expensive and lavishly decorated apartment.
I'm telling you the truth, Sharbert. Now, when I got there, this private eye, this Charlie Brooks, he was dead.
Julian, doesn't it strike you as odd?
Doesn't what?
I hired Brooks to find Paula Sterling. He was going to tell me last night where he'd found her. Then he was murdered about the time you got there.
You think I saw the killer?
I don't know, my dear Julian. I'm merely speculating.
I didn't have nothing to do with it.
I'm still looking for Paula Sterling, Julian.
Well, how am I going to find her, Mr. Sharbert?
The private detective did. You're as bright as he is.
Yeah, but he got 2 bullets in him for finding her.
Yes, Julian. And somebody might get bullets in them for not finding her.
Me, for instance, Mr. Sharbert?
You, for instance, my dear Julian.
I walked Pat over to his office in one of San Francisco's newest skyscrapers. Figured I'd kibitz on a case or two. Pat hates it, but me? I worry about him. I also worry about the women that parade into his place. The one we found in his waiting room, for example.
I'm Dorothy Strickland, Mr. Abbott.
Oh? Well, do sit down. This is my wife, Jean.
Oh, how do you do?
Miss Strickland.
Not here in the anteroom. My private office, Miss Strickland.
Oh, thank you.
Wait here, Jean. Jean, Come back, dear. I said wait here.
Oh. Oh, did you?
Mm-hmm. You see, perhaps Miss Strickland wants to talk to me confidentially.
Well, that's what I thought.
Read some magazines out here, chum. Newspapers, whatever you like.
Okay. Oh, say, here's something. Pershing says he has the Kaiser on the run. Where do you get these magazines? From your dentist?
Now, what's on your mind, Miss Strickland?
I want you to find my sister-in-law,
Why?
so my brother can sue her for divorce.
I'm very sorry, but I don't get mixed up in divorces.
But she may have been murdered.
Really? What makes you think so?
She's been missing for 6 months.
Well, that doesn't mean she was killed, unless you have some special knowledge.
Don't start accusing me. I don't like innuendos like that.
I'm just trying to get the story straight. What's your sister-in-law's name?
Paula Sterling.
Oh. Her again.
Paula Sterling's her maiden name. She's originally from Los Angeles. Why did you say her again?
Her name was in the morning paper.
Yes. Very unfortunate. That private detective.
The fact that he was killed looking for her is hardly tempting.
Well,
to
hear
me
me out first.
The divorce her fault?
No. My brother Stuart is young, and, well, he's fallen in love with someone else.
Mm-hmm. Tell me, could Paula have disappeared so your brother can't find her and serve her? Is she blocking the divorce that way?
Absolutely not. That's why I know something must have happened to her.
Anybody else mixed up in her life? Another man, maybe?
None that I know of.
Is she psychologically sound? No possibility of amnesia?
That's out of the question.
Do you have any idea why the first detective hired on the case was murdered?
None. Are you frightened? Is that why you won't look for Paula?
I don't scare quite that easily, Miss Strickland, but I do like to know who's holding what cards.
You've got to take the case. I need your help terribly. Isn't there anything that will persuade you?
Perhaps.
I think I'd know a way, except there's an obstacle.
Oh? What way is that?
Well, let's say the obstacle's in the anteroom.
My what?
Well, sometimes it's easier to win a man to your own way of thinking if there isn't a wife in the picture.
Oh, well, skip that. Married or not, I still have a peculiar feeling I don't like risking my neck unless I have to. Now, tell me, what does Paula look like?
Well, she's 5'3". She weighs 115 pounds, has beautiful red hair, lovely big blue eyes. They say she looks a little like me.
Oh, lovely eyes, beautiful hair, looks like you. You're the modest type, I see.
No, just telling you the facts. That's what you wanted, isn't it?
Speaking of facts, Miss Strickland, let's face a very interesting one. The fee.
Hope it won't be exorbitant.
Well, you know, stuntmen get a lot of money. That's because their assignments might be fatal. Now, you were asking me to walk the same road that a colleague of mine just walked, and he's in the morgue.
All right, name your figure.
5,000. Find her or not.
Well, would that settle it? Then you'd accept?
Probably.
I'll dig up the money somehow, some way. It's a deal, 5,000. Of course, if it could be less, I mean, even a little less.
You're asking me to find a woman nobody's been able to locate in 6 months. She's very attractive. In spite of what you say, she's undoubtedly involved with men, and some of them are obviously hoods. They just knocked off the guy who finally did find her. And you've no really valuable clues. There'll be nothing less, Miss Strickland.
All right, I'll pay.
All right, then you're on.
Will you start immediately?
Immediately.
You're a darling. I could just kiss you.
Well...
Was I interrupting something?
No, I, just that, Jean, dear,
Yes.
You see, she got excited because I consented to take the case. Do you have a pencil, darling? I want to take down Miss Strickland's number.
I think you've already got her number.
Look, I came here to hire services, Mrs. Abbott, not to indulge in second-rate wisecracks.
You also didn't come here to kiss my husband. Or did you?
Here, I'll write my number on this pad. There we are.
All right, I'll call you the moment I learn anything, Dorothy.
Learn anything? Brother, if I hadn't come in, you'd have graduated with honors in about 5 minutes.
I was talking about the case.
Well, I wasn't. Now, isn't that odd?
I'm very grateful, Mr. Abbott, and goodbye, Mrs. Abbott.
Goodbye, Miss Strickland.
That's a sweet girl.
Husband snatcher.
Darling, you don't know what this involves.
I certainly do. I listened on the intercom.
1 million people in San Francisco, and I have to find one redhead. You know, that's like looking for a cheap apartment.
I have a feeling I can clean up this case with one call.
And I have a feeling that you've flipped.
Just listen.
Hello?
May I please speak to Paula Sterling?
Well, this is Paula Sterling.
But this is the office of Pat Abbott. Are you from Los Angeles?
Well, yes.
Thank you. That's all I wanted to know.
Well, don't... Hello? Hello?
Well, my fine, high-class private detective with the big problems. What have you got to say now?
Well, that couldn't possibly be the same Paula Sterling. Dorothy's been looking for her for almost 6 months.
Or maybe she wasn't trying very hard. She's living at the Beverly Arms.
Well, how did you know?
Elementary, my dear Abbott. I looked it up in the phone book. Well, Pat, what does the nameplate say?
It says Paula Sterling, all right, but it can't be the same one.
What's the matter?
Not locked.
Nobody home?
Let's try the bedroom.
Pat.
Yeah. Looks like somebody hit this place like a hurricane.
What could have they been looking for?
Same thing we are. Paula Sterling.
Well, they couldn't have expected to find her in any of these drawers. If you ask me, this was a conventional robbery.
Well, darling, you talked to her just 15 minutes ago.
Well, so what?
Well, if this were a conventional robbery, then the burglar might still be... What happened to those lights?
I don't know.
Turn them on.
They won't work.
Fuse must have gone. Don't move.
That's good advice. Why don't you take it, too?
Get that flashlight out of my eyes.
Well, Pat Abbott, the detective, right?
Have we met?
Not formal, no. I saw you in a courtroom once. Oh, you did real good. But you won't this time. Not with this dame.
Which dame?
Paula Sterling, the dame with you.
I am not a dame. I'm Mrs. Pat Abbott.
That must be fun.
I could have more fun, pal, pushing your wise guy face.
Never mind that. It'd get us all in a jam.
I didn't hear your name.
Call me Julian.
All right, Julian. We're looking for Paula Sterling, too.
My boss would like to know that.
Who's your boss?
Mr. Sharvett. He's a very nice guy. You know, you ought to meet him. In fact, you ought to meet him right now.
Maybe I don't want to.
Maybe you don't see this 38.
All right, we'll meet him. I love cordial invitations like that.
All right, folks. Step inside.
Just quit shoving, Julian.
Hello, Mr. Sharvett.
And precisely what is this uproar about?
Oh, it's just what the doctor ordered. Meet Paula Sterling, Mr. Sharvett.
Paula Sterling?
You don't recognize her?
My dear Julian, I told you Paula was a redhead. This lovely girl is not.
Oh, hear that, Pat? This lovely girl.
Well, I found both of them in Paula Sterling's apartment.
I'm extremely sorry. I didn't quite get your name.
My name is Abbott. Pat Abbott.
The renowned detective? Oh, I am impressed. What were you doing in Paula's apartment?
Just looking.
For what?
I heard there was a vacancy.
I wonder if we have time for these little ventures into irrelevant humor.
Okay, we'll leave.
What is your interest in Paula Sterling?
A client of mine wants to locate him.
Perhaps we can join forces. I'm looking for her, too.
Thank you, no.
You're uncooperative, aren't you, Mr. Abbott?
Give me a crack at him, boss. He'll cooperate.
Would you like Julian to go to work on you?
Sure, if he'll put down that gun.
Where is Paula, Mr. Abbott? Julian, I don't approve of violence.
Pat, are you all right, dear?
Of course he is. Help him up, Julian.
Never mind. Just put the gun down, pal. I'd like a crack at you myself.
Did Julian change your mind, Abbott?
I'll change his face for him.
Oh, Pat.
Julian, Mr. Abbott will be of little use to me unconscious or dead, unless I decide he hasn't the information I want.
He's got it, and I'll get it out of him.
Mr. Abbott, I'm not doing this for amusement. Paula Sterling worked for me until she disappeared with $100,000 of mine. I want it back.
Want me to answer?
Never mind. Hello? Yes? Yes. You have? Oh, that's splendid. Accept my apologies, Mr. Abbott.
What for?
An error. It's been rectified. One of my employees phoned in. Imagine. He just found Paula Sterling.
Pat, you haven't said a word since we left Sharbert.
I've been thinking, darling.
Well, it's about time, the way you were being pushed around.
I want to see Dorothy Strickland.
Business or pleasure?
You got the key to the office?
Mm-hmm. Here.
I'll turn on the lights.
Pat, look, near your desk.
Stay where you are, Jean. I'll take a look.
Well, if she's asleep, don't disturb her.
I couldn't possibly disturb her. She's dead.
Oh, no.
We finally found Paula Sterling.
Why was she killed here?
Remember when you spoke to her on the phone?
Uh-huh.
You said this is Pat Abbott's office. Well, she must have come down here to find out what was going on, and Sharpett's hoods were waiting for her.
You're a bad guesser, Abbott. I'd like to be your bookmaker.
You know, this is the second time you've snuck up on me, Julian. I'm getting annoyed. And get that gun out of my face.
I've been tailing you ever since you left Sharpett's place. That phone call was a phony. Sharpett figured when you heard we found Paula Sterling, you'd go where she was hiding out to check.
Well, he's a bad guesser, too.
Why'd you knock her off?
Don't be an idiot. I just got here. You know that.
Yeah, but how long does it take to knock a dame off and roll her for a dough?
Give me the phone.
Who you calling?
The cops.
Forget it. It's a crummy idea.
Oh, you've got a better one?
Yeah. I got a better one.
Take it easy, Pat.
Darling, where's Julian?
Gone. Coming back with Sharbert.
You know, I'd like to get Julian sometime when he isn't armed.
Oh, don't try to get up. I already called the police.
I didn't want to take a chance disarming him. Kind of you. Wild shot, you know. Honey, why don't you go to the movies, hmm?
I'd rather be with you.
Do you have any shopping to do?
I'd rather be with you.
Jean, you're lousing up the case.
You're wrecking our marriage, Pat.
Okay, but I'm not responsible. Come along with me.
The phony. Pat, I mean. He sneaked to a phone booth and got his pals over at police headquarters and had them pick me up. They took me to headquarters, invited me to play gin. Oh, I was furious. I threatened to sue for false arrest. Well, they said I was a witness. That was true, and I had no comeback. But I vowed then and there to fix Pat's wagon if it was the last thing I did. I don't mean his station wagon. While I was fuming and fussing in custody, Julian was calling his boss.
Is that you, Mr. Sharbert?
Yes, Julian.
Listen, wait till you hear this. Now, it's the screwiest thing. Who do you think killed Paula Sterling?
She's dead?
The cops just picked up Pat Abbott's wife.
Now, that is odd.
You better kiss your $100,000 goodbye. Gone with the wind, pal.
Perhaps you're right. Come by and see me, Julian.
What for?
I'll pay you off.
You didn't have to drive me to the airport, Mr. Sharbert?
I'm delighted to do it, Julian. It's the least I could do under the circumstances.
Hey, wait a minute. You made a mistake.
Did I?
You should have taken that left turn.
Oh, how stupid of me.
Why are we stopping here?
Something just occurred to me.
Did it?
Yes. Julian, who stands to gain the most from Paula Sterling's death?
Well, Pat Abbott?
Why do you say that?
Well, he could knock her off, grab the dough.
Incredible. Abbott is a world-famous detective. He's turned down more money than that. Extremely ethical.
Maybe his wife swung it, huh?
Don't be absurd.
Well, who does that leave?
You, my dear Julian.
Me? What are you getting at?
Suppose you committed the murder. You wouldn't have to split the take with anyone.
Oh, come on.
Do you have the money with you, Julian? Or shall we drive somewhere and pick it up?
Put that gun away.
Let go, I tell you. Let go. The price of stupidity, my dear Julian. To live by violence is to die that way.
Well, I'll be darned. Pat Abbott.
Hello, Dorothy. Can I come in?
Can you? Step right in. Tell me, why are all the attractive men married?
Skip it. We've business.
Where's your wife?
Didn't you hear me?
Yeah, tell me where she is.
At police headquarters. I couldn't afford to let her go wandering around town on this case. Too many trigger-happy people in it.
Trigger happy? Who?
Your sister-in-law worked for a man named Victor Charbot.
Have you found her?
Yes.
Where is she?
My office.
I'll get my coat. I'll be with you in a minute.
Wait a second. I have bad news for you.
You mean she's ashamed to see me, that's it, huh? That's all right.
It isn't that.
What are you trying to tell me?
She's dead.
Oh, no. Oh, that's awful.
She wasn't the young innocent, Dorothy. She was mixed up with a rough crowd. She stole $100,000.
What, do you realize what you're saying?
Sure.
Yeah, but that doesn't make sense. I mean, Paula was a simple, sweet girl. She didn't need Charbert's money.
I can't convince him of that.
Well, you're wrong there. There's a mix-up.
Yes, there is a mix-up.
What do you mean?
You said she had beautiful red hair and blue eyes.
Well?
Her hair wasn't naturally red like yours. It was dark at the roots. It was the first thing that struck me when I saw the body, and also she was about 2 inches shorter than you.
Well, what difference does that make?
Well, I know you haven't seen her in months, and girls do dye their hair.
Now, wait a minute,
but,
you've lost me. I can't seem to think straight. Now, the shock, I guess. Knowing Paula's dead.
Paula Sterling isn't dead.
But you just...
The girl in my office is dead, all right, but not Paula. You're Paula Sterling.
Oh, no, now, really? If you're trying to be clever...
No, not very clever. Tell me, how do you know she took Charbert's money? I didn't say it was his, but you did.
I just presumed, since you mentioned his name...
No, it was too easy when Jean found your name in the phone book. I should have had the answer then. What surprises me is that Charbot never thought of looking there.
Sure he did, but it wasn't there when he looked. I waited until today when the new phone listings were published before I walked into your office.
I was very thoughtful. Who is the dead girl in my
My
office?
double, and she did it well, too.
Mm-hmm. Well, now, if we're all through...
We're not through.
Oh. You have a license for that gun, Dorothy?
Nope, but it won't bother me. The police will think that Charbot killed you when they find your body.
You want to make a deal?
Go ahead, talk.
I'll get you a great lawyer. You could plead insanity.
Yeah? On what grounds?
Trying to get away with this. You'd have to be nuts to try it. Now, you better put away that gun. Those things go off sometimes. Did you kill anybody else besides your double? Charlie Brooks, maybe?
Uh-huh, Charlie Brooks. He got wise. He stumbled on the truth. He wouldn't listen to me, and he acted like a Boy Scout the way you're acting. And he ended up dead, the way you will.
Maybe not.
Oh, you want part of the $100,000, huh?
Maybe.
How much?
Half.
For what?
Keeping my mouth shut. You know, the heat to get whoever kills me will be terrific. Now, that's playing it your way. Now, think of mine. I say nothing, pin a rap on Charbot, get him out of the way, and we're both clear. They'll never find out who got
No,
Brooks.
wait a minute. You talk too fast. I gotta think.
Just think of being in the clear. Now, think.
Don't get so close to me.
I don't want the gun.
You're not made of ice water, after all.
Well, who could be? Ever look in a mirror?
I thought you came here on business.
Well, I did. Well, clean that up.
Ow, my
No.
arm! Let go!
Pat, are you all right?
Yes, Jean. Get up, Dorothy. Police downstairs, darling?
Yes, prowl car. I talked him into coming here. I had a notion you'd make yourself a target.
You dirty
Out the
low
door, Dorothy.
down. You didn't want to
Let's go
deal.
see those boys.
You never did. I bid for an old stall.
Oh, that's nothing. We all do that. Darling, I told you you'd come within inches of a bullet. That shot she fired. Lucky it was wild.
Not as wild as I am, dear. Locking me up in the hoosegow. Chasing redheads. Kissing this woman.
Line of duty, pal.
Oh!
Ow! Hey, what's the idea of kicking a guy in the pants if he just captured a killer?
Well, I'm your wife, right? Line of duty, pal. Line of duty. Paula killed the girl in your office, Pat, right? But now, how did that help her?
Well, darling, once I told the police that Paula Sterling was dead, Sharbert accepted it and would give up looking for her. He suspected Julian of double-crossing him.
You're guessing.
No, I'm not. They just picked up Sharbert and he confessed.
Well, where's Julian?
The coroner's got him.
So, the reason Dottie came to you was to have you establish that Paula Sterling was dead.
Absolutely right. You see, that left her free to take a powder with Sharbert.
Fine. So now you collect from your client, and the case is closed.
Well, my client was Paula Sterling, alias Dorothy Strickland. I just nailed her for homicide, so I'm afraid she won't pay me a dime.
Oh, that's what I like. A husband who's a good businessman, makes money, protects himself, takes care of his wife and home. Total profits on this venture, $0, 0 cents. Well, Pat, one more wonderful case like this, and we'll be bankrupt.
Darling, you mean you love me for my money alone?
There's something else?
Come here.
Oh. Pat.
Yes, darling?
I don't care if you haven't a cent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if you're a terrible businessman.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing matters. Except one thing.
And what's that, darling?
Get a deposit on the next case. Cash.